You know what I'm sad for? I'm sad for all the people who voted for Trump. I'm sad for them because you betrayed them. You know how much it will cost Americans in terms of their increased cost in gas and food over the next year because of the Iran war?
I would simply ask you what the cost is of an Iranian nuclear bomb.
I'm going to give you, you don't even know what the average American is paying. You don't know what we paid in terms of the missiles that hit the Iranian school. You don't know what we're paying in terms of gas. You don't know what we're paying in terms of food. Your 25 billion number is totally off. You've testified that it was 25 billion in cost in terms of the munitions we used and what we paid for it. But when you add to that the damage that was done to our bases, and today's dollars for buying replacement munitions and replacement aircrafts, what has the total cost been over the last 60 days?
That number right now reflects the total cost that we're seeing.
Including buying in today's dollars the new weapons and replacements, and including the damage there? That's your testimony?
If there's adjustments to that, I would defer to the comptroller on that.
And how much are you seeing in terms of, are you asking in terms of supplemental funding just for the Iran mission from this committee?
If and when a supplemental is submitted,
how much?
The majority of it would not just be for, would not be for
what would be
Fury,
the ballpark
it would be
for Iran?
Munitions related to the entirety
Just
of what we
number,
want to
sir.
get done.
A number, what would you submit? What are
It would be
you
within the, on Iran, it would be less than 25 billion, but there's a lot more we would ask for beyond just Iran.
You're saying it's
considering-
25 billion. Okay, I would just, if you
Okay.
come back, you want to revise those numbers, because all the experts are disagreeing with you when it comes to today's dollars and damage, but you can revise it. How much did it cost American taxpayers in terms of the strike to the Iranian school where kids were killed? Do you have that number in terms of the missiles we used?
As I've said, that unfortunate situation remains under investigation.
You don't know how much it
15-6
costs the
investigation, but I
taxpayer?
wouldn't tie a cost to that, to anything.
It's a reasonable question, no, sir? I mean, our taxpayer money was going there. Do you know how much it will cost Americans in terms of their increased cost in gas and food over the next year because of the Iran war?
I would simply ask you what the cost is of an Iranian nuclear bomb.
I'm going to give you that
I
opportunity.
would simply ask you what the. You're
but
playing gotcha
sir,
questions
sir,
about
no, it's
domestic
not.
things. I'm not.
You're saying it's a gotcha question to ask what it's going to be in terms of the increased
Why
cost
won't
of
you
gas
answer what
and
it costs to prevent Iran from getting a nuclear bomb?
I give you that, sir. But let me.
What
if you
would
could
it
just
cost?
ask my
What would you pay to ensure Iran doesn't
But
get a nuclear
can you-
bomb?
Do you,
What would
sir,
you pay?
I reclaim my time. Do you not know? You had no one do the analysis of what the increased cost of gas and food on the American people are going to be?
What is the cost of
Let me
Iran
give you
holding
the
that
number.
straight at
Let me
issue
give
with
you the
nuclear
number.
weapons?
It's $631 billion, which means it's an increase of $5,000 a year for American households. Now, let me give you this point. You're saying that your operation is preventing a nuclear Iran. Will you acknowledge that there is an economic cost to the American people for doing what you believe is necessary to make Iran denuclear? Will you acknowledge the economic cost?
We have an incredible economic team that's managing this better than what the previous
but to
administration did to our
acknowledge that-
economy,
to acknowledge
what the
there's a
previous
cost.
administration
You-
did
you
with
don't even
inflation,
know what the- you know
what
what's
the previous
upsetting? I reclaim
administration
my
did with
time. You know,
COVID,
Secretary-
and you're going to
Secretary,
lecture this
I reclaim
administration
my
about the
time, sir.
economy?
You know what is upsetting to me?
Incredible.
You didn't even do the analysis on how much it's costing the American people. It's one thing if you said, okay, it costs the American people $5,000, but we think it's worth it. That's what we've done in World War II and other wars. Here's what it costs. You got to pay for it. You don't even know what the average American is paying. You don't know what we paid in terms of the missiles that hit the Iranian school. You don't know what we're paying in terms of gas. You don't know what we're paying in terms of food. Your 25 billion number is totally off. It's the incompetence. It's the incompetence. Let me ask you this. Certainly maybe here we'll find agreement. There was still 440 pounds of low-enriched uranium, correct, when President Obama, after the JCPOA? Is that accurate?
The amounts and types are classified.
Okay. Will you acknowledge that there were 970 pounds of uranium enriched after Trump tore up the JCPOA?
The JCPOA was a terrible deal that allowed Iran a path to a nuclear bomb.
You deal with vague platitudes. I'm asking you about numbers. Like, you don't know what gas costs, you don't know what food costs, you don't know what the operation costs. You know, I get sound bites, but how about numbers? Do you know how much the enriched uranium was after you ripped up the JCPOA? Trump did.
I'll give you a number. I know that, as was stated by early on, The price of gas is twice as expensive in California, your home state, as anywhere else in the country because of the horrible policies your state pursued.
You know what? It used to be that that type of stuff worked, and then you started to lose the people that you campaigned you wanted to be for, because you said you wouldn't get us into bad wars. You said you would bring down the prices. You know what I'm sad for? I'm sad for all the people who voted for Trump. I'm sad for them because you betrayed them. You've betrayed a lot of that MAGA base. And you know who knows that? J.D. Vance knows that.
After this April 29th, 2026 hearing, congressional scrutiny over the Iran war only intensified. The very next day, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth returned to Capitol Hill for another round of questioning before the Senate Armed Services Committee, where lawmakers again pressed him on the cost of the war, the administration's strategy, and the growing strain on U.S. weapons stockpiles. As the months went on, the financial debate grew even larger. Pentagon officials later told senators they expected to seek roughly $80 billion in additional funding tied primarily to the Iran war, far exceeding the figures discussed during this hearing. Lawmakers from both parties questioned the rising costs and demanded greater transparency about how the administration was calculating the war's price tag. The issue also became a major fight in Congress. By July 2026, Senate Democrats blocked debate on a $1 trillion defense authorization bill, arguing that Congress should not approve massive increases in military spending while the administration continued its war in Iran without stronger oversight or a clearer long-term strategy. Republicans defended the funding as necessary for national security, but the disagreement showed that the concerns raised during this hearing remained unresolved months later. Those developments explain why Representative Khanna focused almost entirely on one issue during this exchange. What is this war actually costing the American people? Rather than debating whether Iran's nuclear program posed a threat, Khanna repeatedly demanded hard numbers. He challenged Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth over the administration's estimate that the military operation had cost roughly $25 billion, arguing that figure failed to include replacement aircraft, replacement munitions, damage to military installations, and the broader economic impact on American families. Khanna also pressed the administration on something he believed had received too little attention: the indirect costs of war. He asked whether the Pentagon had calculated how higher energy prices, transportation costs, and inflation resulting from the conflict would affect ordinary Americans. His argument was that taxpayers deserve to understand not only what the Pentagon spends, but also what military conflicts ultimately cost households across the country. Secretary Hegseth approached the issue from a different perspective. Rather than focusing on economic projections, he argued that the more important question was the cost of allowing Iran to develop a nuclear weapon. Throughout the hearing, he defended the military operation as a necessary national security decision and maintained that preventing a nuclear-armed Iran justified the resources being committed to the conflict. The sharp disagreement reflected two very different ways of evaluating military action. One side measures success through strategic objectives and national security outcomes. The other argues that those objectives must also be weighed against the financial burden placed on taxpayers, rising government spending, and the broader economic consequences that families experience through higher prices and inflation. It is also important to distinguish between estimates discussed during the hearing and later budget requests. At the time of this exchange, Hegseth defended the administration's estimate of approximately $25 billion. In the months that followed, Pentagon officials informed lawmakers that additional funding requirements were expected to be significantly higher, leading many members of Congress to demand more detailed accounting of replacement costs, operational expenses, and future military commitments. Those later developments became central to the continuing oversight debate. Ultimately, this hearing became about far more than one budget number. It raised a broader question that Congress continues to debate today. How should the true cost of military action be measured? Is it only the money spent on bombs, missiles, and equipment? Or should it also include higher fuel prices, economic disruption, long-term defense commitments, and the impact on American taxpayers? The months following this hearing showed that those questions did not disappear. Instead, They became even more significant as the administration sought billions more in funding and Congress demanded greater accountability for both the financial and strategic costs of the war.